Hello and welcome back to another week in new genre books. Thanks for stopping by. We're always glad to have you here. My name is Amelia, and from Locus magazine, I'm about to tell you the top new science fiction, fantasy, and horror books hitting shelves the week of February 28th, 2023. Around this time of year, I always think of the writer Tim Powers, who is the only person I know who was born on February 29th, meaning he only gets a birthday every 4 years. Happy birthday, Powers. Get it out of the way then, hit that like button for me. That is a big part of keeping this booktube going. Did you know the human mind can't tell the difference between something we've heard a lot and something that's real? Repetition becomes reality. That's why I keep saying like and subscribe. I've got links for timing if you want to skip to your favorite category, be it science fiction, fantasy, or horror. Starting with science fiction books this week, we have 2 science fiction titles being published. From David Scott Hay, we saw NSFW, out from Whiskey Tit in trade paperback. This is an experimental, speculative science fiction horror novel about newly hired social media moderators trying to survive viewing offensive images for 90 days to qualify for health care and a mystery bonus, a device radically transforming the world. From J.L. Lycette, we saw The Algorithm Will See You Now, out from Black Rose Writing in trade paper and ebook. This is a near-future SF novel of AI-based medical treatment and a conspiracy to cover up a fatal flaw, a first novel. And something I learned recently about the word conspiracy, it means to breathe together, from the Latin word conspirare. In horror this week, we saw 3 titles. From Liselle Sambury, we saw Delicious Monsters, out from McElderry in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This young adult title is a psychological thriller in parallel about 2 teens investigating a mysterious mansion 10 years apart, and one of them sees dead people. From Zoe Stage, we saw Mothered, out from Thomas & Mercer in hardcover, trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is a horror novel about a woman who starts having trouble telling dreams from reality after her mother moves in during an unspecified pandemic. From Han Song, we saw Hospital, out from Amazon Crossing in hardcover, trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This absurdist/surreal, dark satire/dystopian novel is about a business traveler struck by a mysterious illness, then stuck in the Byzantine bureaucracy of a hospital system, which is maybe redundant to call hospital systems both Byzantine and bureaucratic. This is the author's English language debut, translated by Michael Berry. Next up, fantasy. We have 13 titles this week. So much fantasy. From Kelly Barnhill, we saw The Crane Husband, out from Tor.com in hardcover and ebook. This is a feminist fantasy novella retelling The Crane Wife by the Newbery Medal-winning award author of The Girl Who Drank the Moon. One fiercely pragmatic teen forced to grow up faster than was fair will do whatever it takes to protect her family. And I think that's part of growing up, that realization that life generally isn't fair, although we have a sense that it should be, somehow. From Shannon Chakraborty, we saw The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi, out from Harper Voyager US in hardcover, paperback, ebook, and audio. This is a pirate fantasy novel, the first in a trilogy mixing Sinbad the Sailor and Ocean's 11. The author also writes as S.A. Chakraborty. From Piper CJ, we saw The Sun and Its Shade, out from Bloom Books in trade paperback and ebook. This is a fantasy novel sequel to The Night and Its Moon, a fantastical portrayal of queer experiences and found family. From Django Wexler, we saw Emperor of Ruin, out from Orbit US in trade paperback. This is a fantasy novel, third and final in the Burning Blade and Silver Eye trilogy. From Diane Marie Brown, we saw Black Candle Women, out from Graydon House in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a fantasy novel about 4 generations of magical Montrose women who live with a curse. Anyone they fall in love with dies, which is a pretty dramatic curse to live under. You're really gonna live a whole life and never fall for anyone? From Keith R.A. DeCandido, we saw Phoenix Precinct, out from eSpec Books in trade paperback and ebook. This is a fantasy mystery novel, 6th in the series, begun in Dragon Precinct, featuring the Cliffs End Castle Guard. The new precinct, formed to deal with refugees from neighboring Barlin, has to deal with anti-immigrant violence and an unexpectedly complicated murder. And I just love the framework there that implies murder is generally uncomplicated, which, is that true? This particular book has a murder that is unexpectedly complicated. We have questions. From A.B. Finlayson, we saw The Book and the Blade, out from Parliament House Press in trade paperback and ebook. This is a humorous fantasy novel, a debut, and the first in the Arthur Crazy series. Arthur Crazy gets drunk and discovers he can see ghosts. and they all want help with unfinished business. Presumably, he says yes, and that's what the story is about, but, like, how do the ghosts pay? Like, can you Venmo the afterlife? From Chloe Gong, we saw Last Violent Call, out from Hodder & Stoughton UK in hardcover trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is a young adult original collection of 2 novellas in the Foul Lady Fortune series, A Foul Thing and This Foul Murder. From Barbara Hambly, we saw The Iron Princess, out from Open Road in trade paperback and ebook. This is a fantasy adventure novel. As the world's magic fails and monsters attack, Clea Stelakos suspects the crystal mages of plotting to keep her people enslaved. From Clara Kumagai, we saw Catfish Rolling, out from Zephyr in hardcover trade paperback and ebook. This is a young adult fantasy novel inspired by a Japanese myth. Sora, whose mother died in an earthquake, searches for her in the zones where time runs faster or slower than normal, which this audience might know this already, but time does run slightly faster the further you get from the Earth's surface. It's called gravitational time dilation, and it technically means time flies when you're living upstairs, or something like that, anyway. From Gabe Cole Novoa, we saw The Wicked Bargain, out from Random House in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a young adult historical pirate fantasy novel. Mar is a transmasculine, non-binary teen pirate hiding a magical ability to manipulate fire and ice. But their magic isn't enough to reverse a wicked bargain made by their father, and now El Diablo has come to collect his payment, the soul of Mar's father, and the entire crew of their ship. From H.G. Perry, we saw The Magician's Daughter, out from Red Hook in trade paperback, ebook, and audio. In this historical fantasy set in the early 1900s, a young woman is caught between the magical island she grew up on and the greater world in a tale of miracles, magic, and the adventure of a lifetime. From Samantha Shannon, we saw A Day of Fallen Night, out from Bloomsbury, USA in hardcover, trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is a fantasy novel in the Roots of Chaos series, a standalone prequel to The Priory of the Orange Tree, a feminist reimagining of the story of St. George and the Dragon. This was illustrated by Emily Ficini. That wraps up this week. Thanks for spending some time with us. At Locus, we want to tell you everything relevant that's happening in the science fiction, fantasy, horror publishing space. We appreciate your eyes and ears. We know you have choices when it comes to BookTube. Please hit that subscribe button on your way out and turn notifications on so you know about this video when it goes up every week. The magazine and YouTube channel are a labor of love. We are at Locus Mag or at Locus Magazine on most platforms. You can read more about the science fiction, fantasy, and horror field over at www.locusmag.com or support us on our Patreon. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. Come back and see us again soon, and we'll be here next week with more new books.